Good afternoon, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Today on Newsfeed at noon, President Bongbong Marcos sends DMW Chief Hans Leo Kakdak home from the ASEAN Summit in Laos to help plan the evacuation of Filipinos in war-torn Lebanon. The president wants all Filipinos there moved out of harm's way by all means. ASEAN leaders meet with the Chinese premier in Laos to tackle the long-standing disputes in the South China Sea. Hurricane Milton makes landfall, unleashing heavy rains and tornadoes in Florida. And global pop superstar Taylor Swift makes a huge donation of $5 million for hurricane relief efforts in the U.S. Thanks for joining us. It's all hands on deck as the Philippine government prepares to immediately evacuate hundreds of Filipinos caught in the crossfire in Lebanon. President Marcos orders Migrant Workers Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak to return to Manila to be on top of the planning to bring Filipinos in the conflict-hit country back home. Kakdak was initially in Laos People's Democratic Republic with the president for the ASEAN Summit. Marcos also held an emergency meeting with his cabinet while in Laos, ordering them to get Filipinos in Lebanon out of harm's way.
We are now going to evacuate our people by whatever means, by air or by sea. And let's make all the preparations so that malapit na lahat ng asset natin. Kung may barko tayong kukunin, nandyan na malapit na sa Beirut na sandali lang. Basta the embassy gives us the all clear and they say that our people can go, mailabas na agad natin so that hindi sila nag-aantay na matagal in the danger areas.
As of October 8, over 1,700 Filipinos in Lebanon have applied for repatriation. Lebanon is still under Alert Level 3, meaning repatriation is not yet mandatory. ASEAN leaders are pressing Myanmar's junta and its opponents to take concrete action to end their country's civil war. The ASEAN has tried for years to no avail to find a diplomatic solution to the crisis, which has killed thousands and forced millions to flee their homes since the military seized power in 2021. Myanmar dominated the first day of the summit as ASEAN leaders held face-to-face talks with a senior junta representative for the first time in more than 3 years.
The position of the Philippines is still remains the same. We are firmly behind the ASEAN proposal of the five points of consensus, and we are trying to find ways to move forward because we have to admit that although the 5 points have been out there since Brunei, we have not been very successful in actually changing the situation. So we are trying to formulate new strategies to.
What could be the new?
Well, we haven't done it yet, but
thank you, Mr. President.
ASEAN leaders are also tackling disputes in the South China Sea as they meet this time with Chinese Premier Li Qiang. The meeting comes after several confrontations between Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels and Philippine and Vietnamese civilian boats in the disputed waters. China and several ASEAN members, the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Brunei, have competing claims in the South China Sea. The regional bloc has repeated its long-standing call for restraint and respect for international law. Still on the South China Sea issue, Chinese fishermen are accusing their Filipino counterparts of harassment in waters off Scarborough Shoal. They also claim Filipino fishermen often use poison and electric nets in the area, killing fish and harming the marine environment.
肯定影响我们啦，我们那一管他们来这里，就是我们的在影响我们的嘛。有时候啊，他们这个小艇啊过来过去啊，我们这个有时候我们开船的时候不安全的时候，这就影响我们这个。
BNC is still trying to get comments from Philippine officials, but both sides have repeatedly accused each other of harassment in the disputed shoal. Heading to the U.S. now as Florida feels the wrath of Hurricane Milton. The storm unleashed heavy rain and tornadoes on a state already battered by Hurricane Helene 2 weeks ago. Officials warn while Milton has slightly weakened, it was growing in size and remains potentially catastrophic. Milton has made landfall in Florida's west coast. Millions on the path of the storm have already been told to evacuate.
The people of Florida and all the impacted states, we've got your back. We've got your back. And Kamala and I will be there for as long as it takes to rescue, recover, and rebuild.
With Milton coming immediately after the deadly Hurricane Helene, Donald Trump has sought political advantage by spreading misinformation about the federal government's response. Trump has been falsely claiming and aid is being channeled away from Republicans and towards migrants. He even repeated the wild accusation during a campaign stop at President Biden's hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania.
And we have another big one coming in, but the worst, the one in North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Virginia, was pieces of Florida got hit. I mean, it's incredible. The worst ever, they say. They had no money. You know where they gave the money? To illegal immigrants coming in, many of whom are killers, many of whom are drug dealers, many of whom are gang members, and many of whom came out of prisons from all over the world.
At the White House, Biden unapologetically expressed his outrage over Trump's lies.
They're saying people impacted by these storms will receive $750 in cash and no more. That is simply not true either. They're saying the money needed for these crises are being diverted to migrants. What the heck are they talking about? Stop it. It's outrageous. It's just not true. Now the claims are getting even more bizarre. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the congresswoman from Georgia, is now saying the federal government is literally controlling the weather. We're controlling the weather. It's beyond ridiculous. It's so stupid. It's got to stop.
The music industry's finest are also chipping in for hurricane relief efforts in the U.S. Global pop superstar Taylor Swift making a huge donation of $5 million to nonprofit group Feeding America. The group CEO thanked Taylor on Instagram, saying her donation will help communities rebuild and recover and provide food and other essentials to those affected by the disasters. Top country musicians are also coming together for a benefit show dubbed Concert for Carolina. North Carolina natives like Luke Combs and Eric Church will headline the show on October 26th. The lineup of artists include Sheryl Crow, Keith Urban, and James Taylor. Here at home, China could already be planting their people in our government. That warning from Senator J.V. Ejercito as he doubles down on his claim that some local officials are Chinese citizens, like dismissed Bamban Mayor Alice Go. On BNC's At the Forefront, Ejercito insists he met these officials whom he calls China men. The senator urges concerned agencies to look into the issue, which he says is a threat to national security.
I studied in a Chinese school, in Xavier School, and I could tell local Chinese from the mainland Chinese by their accent. No? My take is that most of this Chinese people are really born entrepreneurs. No? Pag may pagkakakitaan, talagang papasukin nila yan. So probably most of them are for business. Just so happened, it's just sad that the legalization of Pogo, which had good intentions, but it was used as an avenue of these criminal syndicates to do their modus in the country.
Mm-hmm. Senator J.V. Ejercito also slamming San Juan Mayor Francis Zamora for what he calls vindictive politics. On BNC's At the Forefront, Ejercito fired back at Zamora for grabbing credit for the progress supposedly achieved during his family's 50-year reign in San Juan. Ejercito said dirty politics actually began in the city when Zamora took the reins in 2019. The mayor earlier claimed he has raised the bar so high during his term.
Audacity, the arrogance of this person is just astonishing. It's an insult to the people of San Juan for him to say that he raised the bar so high. Zamora is very lucky also, no, that I'm already in the Senate. Senator Jingle is in the Senate. My mother is 82. That nobody right now can really face was left, no, to run against them.
As to whether the rift between the Zamoras and Ejercito Estradas could be mended, here's what the senator had to say.
Depends on him. I have made this appeal time and again ever since my mother retired. I'm hoping that we stop all of this vindictiveness already, because in terms of local politics, we are already trying to distance ourselves. No? Kasi kawawa yung tao eh. They deserve better treatment.
Senate President Francis Escudero is encouraging Senator J.V. Ejercito to talk to the Commission on Elections about foreign agents supposedly planted to run as officials in the country. Our reporter Agatha Gregorio is on the scene for updates on that and more on the kapihan sa Senado with Escudero. Agatha, go ahead. Agatha? All right, we'll try to get Agatha back on the line in a bit. Meanwhile, we have to take a short break. We'll take a look at the United States' first law enforcement Tesla Cybertruck when we return. Stay tuned for that. This is Newsfeed at noon, only here on BNC. You're still watching Newsfeed at noon. Senate President Francis Escudero is encouraging Senator J.V. Ejercito to talk to the Commission on Elections about foreign agents supposedly planted to run as officials in the country. Our reporter Agatha Gregorio is on the scene for updates on that and more on the kapihan sa Senado with Escudero. Agatha?
Mai, for Senate President Cheese Escudero, an issue brought up by Senator J.V. Ejercito is worth taking up with the COMELEC. That's in reference to Ejercito saying he has met officials that are China men or Chinese nationals. But Escudero told the media he has not met anyone who falls into this category. He added if Ejercito finds basis for the claim, they should file a case to disqualify these so-called China men. The Senate President also agreed with efforts to talk to Shi Zhejiang, a Chinese tycoon who said that Guo is a spy. Escudero added issues like this are the reason why the Department of National Defense wants to again look at the Anti-Espionage Act. Mai?
Agatha, we heard that the Senate President also got to speak to Defense Secretary Gilbert Chodoro recently. Did Escudero mention what they talked about?
Yes, Mai, he did say that this meeting included other DND officials as well as representatives from the AFP. They talked about the military and uniformed personnel bill, which is pending at the Senate, as well as the aforementioned Anti-Espionage Act. The ROTC bill was also a topic of discussion, which Escudero said would cost 8 billion pesos a year. Back to you, Mai.
Thank you, Agatha Gregorio, reporting from the Senate. Tension between major allies, the U.S. and Israel, as the UN Security Council meets on the humanitarian situation in Gaza. The U.S. ambassador to the UN is calling out Israel for what she describes as a catastrophic conditions among Palestinian civilians caught in the war with Hamas.
The United States is concerned by the situation in northern Gaza, including the announcement by Israel of a new evacuation order for several communities. We're particularly concerned that Palestinian civilians have nowhere safe to go. These catastrophic conditions were predicted months ago and yet have still not been addressed. That must change, and now. We call on Israel to take urgent steps to do so.
The U.S. also raised allegations Israel was limiting aid into Gaza, an accusation the Israeli ambassador denies.
We have a vision for Gaza without Hamas. Aid would finally reach those who truly need it. You spoke about the aid. Do you know that in one day, about 50% of the trucks were hijacked by Hamas? Hamas had exploited the suffering of its people, using the misery in Gaza as a propaganda tool where they line their pockets and boost their arsenals.
Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump vowing to save American democracy. He made that promise during a campaign rally in President Joe Biden's hometown of Scranton. It was Trump's second visit in just 5 days to Pennsylvania, a key swing state with 19 electoral votes that are likely to prove crucial to whoever wins the November 5 election.
Tampon Tim said they want to abolish the Electoral College, taking away all electoral power basically from the voters of places like Pennsylvania. Tim and Comrade Kamala are really a true threat. They are a true threat to democracy. I'm not a threat to democracy. I'm the one that's going to save democracy. I'm the one that's going to save it.
California's Irvine Police Department goes high-tech as it unveils America's first law enforcement Tesla Cybertruck. Officials say the fully equipped vehicle will play a role in supporting the department's anti-drug program. It is also ready to respond to emergencies and assist residents when needed. Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Eli Remolona Jr. says inflation is on what he calls a target-consistent path, opening up room for more rate cuts. In an interview with Global Finance magazine, Remolona shared that inflation is expected to settle at 3.3% this year, 2.9% next year, and 3.3% in 2026, all within BSP's 2 to 4% target range, even if some risks emerge. He adds the BSP's decision to cut rates in August was based on its outlook for inflation and growth rather than on the timing of the U.S. Federal Reserve's actions. So far, the BSP's early rate cut has had little impact on the peso, which has only slightly weakened against the U.S. dollar. Remolona also noted that the central bank will keep watching for risks to inflation, including higher electricity rates and external pressures. A South African court temporarily blocks billionaire Enrique Razon's takeover of the biggest container port in sub-Saharan Africa. Bloomberg reports AP Moller Maersk, one of the world's largest shipping companies, is challenging the awarding of the project, arguing that the International Container Terminal Services, or ICTSI, does not meet a required solvency measure. APM Terminals, a unit of Maersk, was one of the unsuccessful bidders in the auction by state-owned Transnet to sell nearly half of the main terminal in Durban and operate it for 25 years. In July 2023, Transnet selected ICTSI as the preferred bidder for a joint venture to develop and upgrade the Durban Container Terminal. This is significant for the Philippines as ICTSI, a Filipino-owned global port operator, could strengthen the country's position in the international port industry if successful. Double dragon of billionaires Tony Tan Caktiong's and Injap Sia is heading back to the debt market with plans to raise 30 billion pesos by 2026 through a retail bond sale. The first tranche worth 5 billion pesos will be offered in the fourth quarter with an interest rate of 8% and a maturity of 5 to 7 years. The move is significant for investors looking for stable returns as retail bonds offer attractive interest rates compared to other fixed income options. Double Dragon's strong performance in the debt market could make this offering appealing for those seeking long-term yields. This marks the company's second foray into the debt market this year, following a 10 billion peso issuance completed in July. Billionaire Manuel Pangilinan-led Meralco and South Korea's Doosan Enerbility signed a memorandum of understanding to explore strategic collaborations in low-carbon energy projects. This includes the potential deployment of nuclear power facilities using small modular reactors to address the country's growing energy demand. The partnership also considers the possibility of rehabilitating the idle Bataan nuclear power plant. The collaboration follows a feasibility study agreement between the Philippines and South Korea to revive the Bataan plant, announced during South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's state visit earlier this week. Other areas of cooperation include the deployment of greenhouse gas reduction technologies and developing gas turbines for Meralco's power projects. Metro Pacific Tollways President and CEO Rogelio Singson is named Management Person of the Year 2024. The Management Association of the Philippines is honoring Singson for his strong leadership, good governance, and his anti-corruption efforts during his time as Public Works Secretary from 2010 to 2016. He is also being recognized for being a model of humility, ethical conduct, and spiritual integrity. The prestigious award is presented to individuals who have made significant contributions to the country's development and have helped shape national values. Up next, great news for Dragon Ball fans as a new video game in the popular manga franchise is out. You're watching Newsfeed at noon here on BNC. We're back. You're still on Newsfeed at noon. After decades of war, Somalia's only zoo is roaring back to life. Located on the outskirts of Somalia's capital, it offers a rare glimpse of wildlife and provides a sanctuary for various wild animals and a safe space for locals to learn about them. The zoo stands as a symbol of resilience in a country grappling with years of conflict and instability. The UK's major contemporary art fair returns for its 2024 edition. It is bringing 160 galleries from more than 40 countries to the British capital. It opens to the public this Friday at Regent's Park and will run for 4 days.
We have over 160 galleries from 43 countries. So it's really, the entire art world from, various regions, including regions from, the global south. We have a gallery from Senegal participating in the fair for the first time. We have new galleries from Korea. We have our first gallery from Australia. So a really sort of global and representative edition of the fair.
I think it's important for an art fair to open opportunities for artists that otherwise probably would not be represented in an international art fair. It's also important to support younger, emerging, experimental galleries that are doing great things around the world.
And before we go, a new Dragon Ball video game is out and fans are hailing it as a wonderful gift. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is the latest installment in the Dragon Ball saga, which celebrates its 40th anniversary this year. It was released a few months after the death of its creator, Akira Toriyama. A new animated series, Dragon Ball Daima, is coming out as well. Since its launch in 1984, Dragon Ball has become one of the best-selling manga franchises of all time, spawning countless anime series, films, and video games. And those are the news this hour. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Keep it here on BNC, the Billionaire News Channel. Good afternoon.